I blinked in utter disbelief as 4 years of grueling overtime and sleepless nights were brushed aside with a single smug smile. Gavin did not even look up from his screen as he casually declared my performance metrics were merely an unearned fluke. He called my 60% speed improvement a statistical anomaly that belonged to the collective team effort rather than my individual work. That was the exact second I decided I was completely finished with this company. I did not raise my voice or throw a dramatic fit in front of the board. I simply unclipped my security badge, set it gently on the polished conference table, and walked out without saying another word. The entire room fell dead silent as I exited because quiet certainty is far more terrifying than an explosive argument. They thought I was just throwing a childish tantrum over a missed bonus, but they had no idea what was leaving with me. When I first joined the firm, the core infrastructure was a tangled disaster held together by ancient code and prayers. Over 4 dedicated years, I silently rebuilt the entire framework from the ground up, working past midnight while everyone else attended useless meetings. I never asked for public glory or fancy titles. I just wanted a stable database that would not crash during peak operational hours, so I crafted every single line from memory. Gavin had been brought in 3 months earlier to streamline the department, bringing along endless corporate buzzwords and useless slides. He saw technical architecture as simple bullet points and viewed my independent expertise as a direct threat to his authority. When I showed him the performance reports, he sneered and claimed I was not aligned with corporate protocols. He genuinely believed that complex software could be easily managed by a committee instead of skilled engineers. What Gavin failed to understand was that no documentation existed in the official portal because the entire system blueprint resided solely inside my head. Every security route, encrypted pipeline, and custom validation method was built on my personal logic. By the time I reached my apartment that rainy evening, colleagues were already sending messages about my abrupt departure. They wondered why I left without a handoff, unaware that there was nothing physical left behind to hand off. That night, I quietly revoked my personal remote access keys and backed up my administrative notes. Years ago, I had installed an automated maintenance script named Sentinel to monitor background health. It contained an automatic security feature that required a valid author credential every 72 hours to maintain core registry access. If the primary authority key expired without a manual renewal, the system would gradually seal itself off to prevent unauthorized tampering from outside sources. On Monday morning, Gavin gathered the junior developers, Tyler and Dustin, in the main war room with great enthusiasm. He instructed them to map out my system architecture within a single week, claiming that I had simply overcomplicated basic processes. However, when the young engineers opened the repository, they found only cryptographic variable names and nested dependencies that made no sense. They spent hours staring at whiteboards filled with question marks while Gavin assured upper management that everything was fine. By Wednesday afternoon, the automated countdown inside the Sentinel script quietly reached 0 without anyone noticing. My original employee account had been marked inactive, which triggered a silent cascade of permission revocations across the server grid. The main security layer updated its protocols, shifting control away from standard administrative tokens. The junior developers were busy trying to draw logical flowcharts, entirely unaware that the structural foundation under their feet had just locked its doors forever. The first real warning sign appeared early Thursday morning when the internal payment reconciliation pipeline suddenly froze. Vendor invoices began to pile up, and accounting flooded the IT desk with urgent calls regarding missing financial data. Tyler and Dustin tried to force a quick manual patch, but bypassing the validation checks only corrupted the audit logs further. Gavin quickly sent a confident email to executives blaming legacy clutter, insisting his team was modernizing the entire setup. Meanwhile, I sat in my living room enjoying a quiet morning while reviewing remote job offers from top technology firms. I briefly opened my private, encrypted monitoring console out of habit and noticed the system heartbeat slowing down. The core framework was struggling on temporary backup credentials, operating like an aircraft running on dwindling reserve power. I chose not to intervene or send any warnings, preferring to sit back and let the natural consequences of their arrogance unfold completely. The Chief Operating Officer, Preston, eventually noticed the growing financial discrepancies and demanded an immediate review. He sent a stern message directly to Gavin, asking why the primary architect listed on the internal registry was no longer with the company. Gavin suddenly realized that my name was embedded deep within the system core as the sole owner. Panic finally set in as he realized he had dismissed the only person who understood how to run the business. Late Thursday night, the main authentication registry flatlined, causing critical services to stop communicating with each other. Night shift operators desperately attempted standard system reboots, but the network repeatedly refused access due to missing authority signatures. Gavin was summoned to the office in the middle of the night, staring helplessly at dark monitors in utter panic. When his team attempted to restore data from yesterday's backup images, the system returned blank shells because decryption keys were missing. Desperate to save his standing, Gavin hired an external contractor group to force an emergency override through the back-end network. The contract coders forced synthetic credentials into the locked nodes, temporarily creating a false sense of recovery. But the automated safety mechanisms immediately recognized the breach, triggering a complete system blackout across all company servers. Every customer portal, communication channel, and database went totally dark at once, leaving the entire company completely helpless. At sunrise, Preston walked into the ruined office space, taking in the sight of exhausted developers and empty energy drink cans. He confronted Gavin directly on the floor, asking if anyone else possessed the master schema for the platform. When Gavin remained silent, Preston picked up my brief exit file from HR, which contained only a single note warning that it was already too late. Preston sank into a chair, realizing the company had lost its entire digital framework. Legal representatives arrived shortly after to initiate an emergency contact procedure, attempting to reach me through every possible channel. They dialed my old phone numbers and sent urgent messages, but received no response whatsoever. Tyler checked my public professional profile online and discovered that I had already relocated to Colorado as an independent consultant. I was completely out of their reach, moving forward with my life while leaving their self-inflicted disaster far behind me. Miles away in a quiet mountain coffee shop, I sat by the window watching the morning sun rise over the snowy peaks. My personal laptop displayed a clean screen with no pending alerts, frantic messages, or toxic corporate demands. When a voicemail transcript from Preston popped up on my phone begging for assistance, I simply closed the notification without reading further. Some lessons can only be learned through total collapse, and I was finally enjoying the peaceful silence I deserved.